Imagine you had $1 million in cash sitting in your bank account. Most people would think that's the safest thing to do. After all, the money is secure, easy to access, and protected from the ups and downs of the market. If you asked the average person what they would do after becoming rich, many would probably say they would keep most of their money in the bank. It sounds logical. No risk, no stress, no surprises. But surprisingly, many wealthy people do the exact opposite. In fact, some of the richest people in the world avoid holding large amounts of cash for long periods of time. Now, that doesn't mean they hate cash. Cash is useful. It pays bills, covers emergencies, and gives people flexibility when opportunities appear. The problem begins when cash sits idle for years without doing anything. Because while your money appears to stay the same, something is quietly happening behind the scenes. Every year, the cost of living tends to rise. Food becomes more expensive. Housing becomes more expensive. Transportation becomes more expensive. And as prices rise, the purchasing power of your money slowly falls. This means that even though your bank balance still shows the same number, that money can buy less and less over time. It's a silent process that many people never notice. Your money isn't disappearing, but its value is slowly shrinking. And that's exactly what wealthy people understand. They know that simply storing money is different from growing money. To them, cash is often just a temporary stop, not the final destination. Instead of allowing their money to sit still, they look for ways to put it to work. They focus on assets that have the potential to grow, generate income, or increase in value over time. So if keeping cash feels safe, why do so many wealthy people choose not to keep too much of it? And where exactly do they put their money instead? To answer that, we first need to understand the hidden force that slowly makes cash worth less every year. And that force is called inflation. So what exactly is inflation? In simple terms, inflation is the gradual increase in the prices of goods and services over time. It means that the money in your pocket slowly loses purchasing power. Think about it this way. Imagine you walk into a grocery store with $100 today. You can buy a certain amount of food, drinks, and household items. Now imagine coming back 10 years later with that same $100. Chances are, you won't be able to buy the same amount of things. Not because the money disappeared, but because prices have increased. This is inflation at work. And the scary part is that inflation doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly, year after year, often without people noticing. Most people check their bank account and feel comfortable when they see the same balance sitting there. If they have $10,000 today and still have $10,000 next year, they think nothing has changed. But in reality, something has changed. The value of that money has quietly declined. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you kept $100,000 in cash for 10 years. During that time, inflation continued to push prices higher. At the end of those 10 years, your account might still show $100,000, but that money may no longer buy what it could buy when you first saved it. In other words, you became poorer without spending a single dollar. This is one of the biggest reasons wealthy people avoid holding too much cash. They understand that cash is not an asset that grows. In most cases, cash simply sits there while inflation slowly eats away at its value. It's like leaving ice under the sun. The change is not obvious in the first few minutes, but given enough time, the melting becomes impossible to ignore. That's why wealthy investors often see cash as a short-term tool rather than a long-term wealth-building strategy. They know that if money is going to maintain or increase its value, it usually needs to be invested in something productive. And that raises an important question. So, if wealthy people don't keep most of their money in cash, where do they put it? The answer is simple. They put their money into assets. An asset is something that has the potential to grow in value or generate income over time. Instead of letting money sit idle in a bank account, wealthy people look for opportunities that can make their money work for them. One of the most common places they invest is the stock market. When someone buys shares in a company, they become a partial owner of that business. As the company grows, the value of those shares can increase. Some companies even pay dividends, providing investors with regular income. Another popular asset is real estate. Properties can increase in value over time, and rental properties can generate monthly cash flow. This is one reason why many wealthy individuals own multiple properties rather than keeping large amounts of cash in the bank. Some invest directly in businesses. Instead of storing money, they use it to build companies. expand operations, create products, and generate profits, a successful business can produce returns far greater than the value of cash sitting untouched in an account. Others diversify into investment funds, bonds, or other assets that help preserve and grow wealth over the long term. But here's something important to understand. The rich don't invest because they are guaranteed to make money. Every investment carries some level of risk. What they understand is that there is also a risk in doing nothing. There is a risk in allowing inflation to slowly reduce the value of their money year after year. Imagine two people who each have $100,000. The first person keeps the money in cash for 10 years. The second person invests it into productive assets that grow over time. Fast forward a decade. Even if both started with the exact same amount, the gap between them could be enormous. Not because one person worked harder, but because one person's money was working while the other person's money was standing still. At this point, you might be wondering if cash is actually a bad thing. The answer is no. Cash is incredibly important. In fact, even wealthy people keep some cash available at all times. They need it for emergencies, daily expenses, business operations, and unexpected opportunities. The difference is that they don't allow most of their wealth to sit in cash for years doing nothing. They understand that money is a tool, and like any tool, its value comes from how it is used. Think of cash as a parked car. A parked car may be safe, but it won't take you anywhere. For progress to happen, the car has to move. Money works in a similar way. When it sits still for too long, it often loses value because of inflation. But when it is invested wisely into productive assets, it has the potential to grow and create even more opportunities. This is one of the biggest mindset shifts that separates wealthy people from everyone else. Many people see money as something to protect. The wealthy see money as something to deploy. They don't just ask, how much money do I have? They ask, what is my money doing for me? Because at the end of the day, wealth is rarely built by simply storing money. It is built through ownership. Ownership of businesses, ownership of investments, ownership of assets that can grow and generate income over time. And that's the real reason rich people avoid keeping too much cash. Not because cash is useless, but because they know money works best when it's working for them. If you enjoyed this finance story and learned something new, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because every week, we break down the money habits, investing lessons, and wealth strategies that can change the way you think about money. See you in the next video.